Hello, I'm going to be taking the Marxist theory and applying it to the Game of Thrones. So, a little bit about Marxist theory. Marxist theory is a materialistic approach to government and the economy, and it explains a life where everyone doesn't have to struggle because of their class. Class seems to be the dominant aspect within Marxism, where people gain more authority and more wealth by enslaving people into working for them and really like killing themselves over a job, or they're going to be poor, which they tend to already be, ironically. But by applying Marxist theory to our lives, it allows there to be equal rights to health, education, and just equal opportunities throughout society in general. Marxism can be applied in a feudalist system of hierarchy where the top of the pyramid is the king, and then it goes to the nobles, the knights. Then you get like a section of farmers, merchants, craftsmen, and then you finally get to your peasants and serfs, where they're just the poorest of poor and they really cannot do much for themselves. But there can also be a capitalistic approach to it, where it's just capitalism and private owners are wealthy, and they're also called the bourgeoisie, and they enslave the lower class into working for them. But for the Game of Thrones, I am going to be talking more about the feudalist system of hierarchy, because that is the premise of the entire show of Game of Thrones. So, the TV series is based on 7 kingdoms in Westeros, and they're all fighting for the Iron Throne position, which is currently taken by King Joffrey, who is a very young lord. His father died and he ended up taking his father's steps, but he's so young he really doesn't know how to rule, so his mother has to rule for him. But we get to watch how him and his council, they really embody feudalism and how Marxism can really be applied to it, because we see him in season 3 is the season that I chose to really talk about and focus on. And in the Climb episode, he actually, at the very end, you just see a woman who was a prostitute, and she was shot with bow and arrow like many times in her body, and he had her hanging from his bedpost, and he was just sitting in his chair watching her. And the next episode after that, they just take her body and kind of just shovel her off, like we never hear about her again. And the crazy part is they just allowed it. He didn't get in any trouble for it. There was nothing that happened with it. And then we also see some of his councilmen like Littlefinger, and he owns so many private brothels because it hasn't been outlawed, and he continues to take the rights from these prostitutes and such. But then he goes a step further and starts taking food away. He starts buying up all the food, and when a lot of people cannot need food and they need to pay for it, he ups the prices on food to make him gain more profit and money from it. And none of these things are really questioned. It's actually the driving force behind what keeps Westeros running, what keeps every single kingdom running, in a sense. But they seem to do it a little bit more just because they're at the Iron Throne and they are the front. They hold all the other kingdoms together. But we really, throughout the entire show, we really do not see poor people that much. We don't really get to see them unless they're enslaved or they're revolting. It's like these are the only 2 ways in which we get to see them. And we really don't get to see what happens on the day-to-day, which really shows that though there aren't that many people in the hierarchy versus peasants, hierarchy really always wins. So a couple of takeaways is by applying Marxism to Westeros, the audience can see how the wealthy move in their own political and economical gain. And also, Marxism shows how people choose to move throughout the show and how it those movements progress the show over time. And in the end, we can take these theories and really apply them to our own societies and how we choose to rule.